Hey, I'm Felissa Rose, and you're watching Keto and Crime.
So, the shofar is a Jewish horn of old that is set to bring confusion and fear to the enemy, as well as announce the Lord's coming or some other grand event. And that mantle has been taken up by a group of doomsday preppers slash Old Testament, New Testament hybrid religious folk known as the Shofarians. Coming up next on Keto and Crime. And their leader is a man by the name of Pastor Joe Fox. Now, he is a published author, YouTuber. I've heard him speak. He's very eloquent. He actually seems to be a really nice guy. He's a U.S. veteran, and he has written books on prepping. I have read one of them, and they are actually very common sense in what they say. But according to him, he feels that he has heard the shofar and that God is calling his chosen people to the Ozark Mountains to become separate from society in preparation for the end time.
Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. I get asked the question fairly frequently, why did you decide to live in the Ozarks? Or how did you come to live in the Ozarks? Or, why did you put Shofar Mountain in the Ozarks? Words to that effect. How did you come to be here? And so that's what this video is about. And, right now it's May 2nd, and I'm wearing a hoodie. That's kind of cool, literally and figuratively. And so there's that. Here's the final thing I want to tell you, though. I do honestly believe that God, the Most High Yahweh, is calling his people to the Ozarks. And I don't say that because I'm living here. I say that because of what I see. There are hardcore Christians, what I term hardcore Christians, who've just moved here from wherever, California, Montana, whatever. And they're just all throughout these hills out here. And I run into them all the time. There's hardcore Israelites, Netzarim, Messianic, Hebrew roots. Call it what you want. Everybody has different little names for it, but those types of people, they're all coming here in droves, not to join specific congregations, but just because they feel called by God, the Holy Spirit, to come out here.
This is the main channel of Pastor Joe Fox, Viking Preparedness. I have watched many videos on this channel, and it appears to be a lot less about the religious aspect of why he does what he does, but more about the practical. This is mostly a channel to teach people how to become self-sufficient, which in my opinion is not a bad thing. He does occasionally mention his religion here, such as in this one about the Ark Haven, but for the most part he doesn't really proselytize about it. It's more of a how-to kind of network where you can, become fully self-sufficient, both with solar power, growing your own food, hunting your own food, raising your own food, and even becoming medical self-sufficient in a way. There are such a thing as wilderness medic certifications, wilderness EMT certifications that can be gotten that can actually kind of make you a self-sufficient when it comes to medical for a lot of things. Couldn't prescribe meds or anything, but there's also something to be said for, therapies and stuff like that for in the wild. So it is valuable. Also on his channel, he features his other channel, his personal channel, Pastor Joe Fox, which is he does delve into a little more of the religion there, as well as a channel that kind of describes his entire movement in the Ozarks, the Shofar Mountain channel, as well as I believe this is his wife, Sister Kate, and then some things about homestead cooking. And I haven't watched this one yet, but I'm sure it's something about the movement. Anyway, these are the network of Pastor Joe's channels, and let's keep going. I did try to reach out to Pastor Joe. I could not find an email address or any other way to contact him about hopefully talking with him about his religious beliefs, but unfortunately could not find it. Every single link on all of his channels just referred me back to VikingPreparedness.com, which, as you can see here, is still under construction. Very, very pretty background there, but no sustenance. So Joe, get on that. But so I could not find a way to contact him to actually talk to him. I was hoping to interview him. He did recently do a very long interview with Vice News, which I will link in this video, to kind of tell about why he does what he does. But even in that video, he did not really talk a whole lot about his religion, except to say it was a mixture of Old and New Testament, and that was very loose. So I'm going to have to glean for myself exactly what the religion around Shofar Mountain is.
In verse 45. But before that, some of you will remember from last week who are down at Round Prairie, and some of you will recall that Yeshua has come to Jerusalem, right at this part where we're reading up to right now. So just kind of put it into context. And we read in verses Luke 19:36 and then onwards for a couple. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way as Yeshua went. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that comes in the name of Yahweh, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. So they're singing hosannas, right, as Yeshua comes in. And some of the Pharisees at this point told Yeshua, hey, have your disciples be quiet. Tell them to stop being so rowdy. It was a little...
So as you heard there, he's very reminiscent of the Sermon on the Mount, preaching outside, in nature, and also using what would be considered more Old Testament names for the deities represented in the Bible, Yeshua, Yahweh, those types. So it's very, very obvious that this religion is a mixture of Old and New Testaments. And what I have heard Pastor Joe say in interviews, particularly in the Vice article, is he talks about the over 600 biblical laws that are represented in the Old Testament. If you thought that the 10 Commandments were it, sadly mistaken. There's well over 600 Jewish laws. Let's take a look at them. Most of these laws, known as the 613 mitzvah, so you think bar and bar mitzvah, when a young Jewish child becomes 13 and becomes of age, that is sort of saying that they are now held accountable to the laws, at least is that how it was explained to me. But the 613 mitzvahs are the 613 laws or commandments represented in the Old Testament. The ones we see in Exodus, those 10, that is barely scraping the surface. In fact, those were probably handpicked by those that at the Council of Nicaea that wrote put together the biblical canon as we as Christians or Christians know it in the Western world, was probably handpicked, that those would be the ones that zeroed in. If you don't know, I may do a video on the Council of Nicaea if you'd like to see that. Definitely comment below. But the Council of Nicaea, which took place during the Middle Ages, basically put together the Christian or Catholic Bible as we know it. And of course, books have been altered and retranslated since then, but basically it was a pick and choose based on what was being used, what was believed, and what was politically advantageous to those at the council. So there are a lot of gospels and works that were left out. But according to my Jewish friends that I've talked to, they tell me that according to most very strict Jewish adherents to them, there are still 613 laws. You will see the Hasidic Jews or the very Orthodox Jews still practicing these, where Reform and more liberal sects of Judaism may have kind of gotten away from some of them, but for the most part, they're still there. And they are represented not just in Exodus, but Deuteronomy, Leviticus, all those books that a lot of us that were brought up in a Christian background kind of glazed over. So, except for the things that we kind of cherry pick, such as the shrimp and the man shall not lay with man, we always cherry pick, it seems, what we want to believe. But anyway, these are the 613 mitzvahs, or laws, as they are written. The first few are basically, to me, vanity. As you know, I don't believe in God, so I will say that the first several are vanity, basically setting God or Yahweh up as the ultimate creator, the ultimate king, to know there is a God, to have no other gods, to know that he is the one, to love him, to fear him, to sanctify his name, not to profane his name, to worship him, not to destroy holy objects, to listen to the one true prophet. That's very interesting. Who is the one true prophet? That is, Muhammad in the Islamic tradition, possibly, Elijah, Samuel, Moses, Abraham in the Jewish tradition, and of course Jesus, or Yeshua, as the subject of this video refers to him, in the Christian tradition. So to emulate his ways, to be with only those who worship him, this is very interesting. It kind of points out a tradition of isolationism, which a lot of religious sects do practice, such as the Shofarians. They have pretty much isolated themselves from everyone else. To love converts, very interesting, because in Jewish history, as they were migrating to other places, thoughts of assimilating other people into their culture was also a thing. So there you go, not to hate. So we get into more not to embarrass others, not to oppress the weak. Oh, we have messed up on that one. Not to slander, not to take revenge, not to bear a grudge. Teach these laws to your children. So overall, except for the first few that I consider vanity, such as, not putting any other God before Yahweh, I consider most of these pretty good. I'm not sure what these not to love the missionary refers to, not to stop hating him. Those could be kind of dangerous. Not to prophesize in idolatry, ignore the false prophet. Who is the false prophet? They tell you so much, but they never tell you who. That was one thing that got me to thinking. Not to perform or consult fortune tellers. That's no fun. Not to erect any idols. I've seen about 5 of these referring not to erase any or erect any idols. And so I've seen a lot of things, like I said, about idols. So that could be any number of things. Make no covenant with the Canaanites. That refers to ancient Jewish history. Show them no favor. Do not let them dwell in your land, which is in complete contradiction to love the convert. Not be superstitious, not to engage in astrology, no casting a spell, so no Harry Potter. Not to converse with wizards, don't know any. Do not cut your hair at the temples. Okay. A lot of those people in that video from Shofar Mountain are in trouble. But for the most part, these are very pragmatic types of laws. And as we can see, very hard to keep. I've seen videos of Orthodox Jews who are trying so hard not to perform work on the Sabbath that they actually create machines to do the work for them. And all they have to do is tap a button or set a timer. So these rules are very hard in modern day to adhere to.
Some of the slowest elevators in the world can be found in hotels on Miami Beach.
We have Orthodox Jewish people coming here for the season, for all year round. So the question is, how do people get to their homes, get to their rooms on the Sabbath if you're on a high floor? Sleeping in the lobby is not a solution.
The problem is, for observant Jews, it is forbidden to ride an elevator on the Sabbath.
The Bible simply says we do not make a fire on the Sabbath. When you push the button and create electricity, you're creating a fire. The door opens, there's all types of electricity, all types of labors are being done, and therefore that would be forbidden on the Sabbath.
The other problem is the electric eye in the elevator door.
The electric eye detects your presence Opens those doors again. Uh-oh, your body has opened those doors. If we interfere with the electric eye, it's just as bad as pushing the button.
So the rabbis, together with technology and science, will come up with a solution where they create the Sabbath elevator where there's no need to push any buttons.
We do have a Shabbat elevator for our Jewish customer. Our maintenance staff, typically around 5:30 in the evening, before the sun will set, will key the elevator where it goes straight to the rooftop, up to 17, and then we'll stop on every floor on the way down until it hits actually the basement level.
Going up, the Shabbat elevator is an express to the penthouse.
We're going to be singing the Shabbos songs, Smiros, especially if we're alone together in the elevator.
It goes quick.
It's quick. It does, yes. The penthouse, it goes quickly.
Coming down, the elevator takes about 7 minutes, stopping at every floor.
And I'm willing to venture that the people of Shofar Mountain do not get these 100%. I don't think anyone could. They probably just do their best, as anyone does when they're following any set of laws. But I find this very interesting. And can you imagine 600 of these? I'm sure that they are required to memorize these, but yeah. And I'm sure a lot of them, don't sell women into slavery, carry out the laws of captive. Nice. I'm sure a lot of these, even the Shofarians, would consider outdated, such as talking about, slavery, at least I hope. So, yeah, I'm sure a lot of these, oh my goodness, look at number 613 there. Not to retain her for servitude after having relationship with her. Well, Yahweh was just tons of fun. Anyway, I'm sorry, I can't help but get sarcastic, but a lot of these laws, as we can see, are very outdated, and I'm thinking they probably only follow about a third of these, if any, but they still adhere to these laws. I've heard Pastor Joe Fox talk about these laws, so they are still somewhat in use in many of their practices. Prepping is very mainstream. It's not fringe anymore. I think with the onset of COVID-19 and other natural disasters such as hurricanes and things, that having at least 3 days worth of food, which even FEMA, our own governmental emergency agency, recommends. 3 months would be considered the standard for anybody that's well prepared, and most of what I call the hardcore preppers, like Joe Fox and his people consider them prepper lifestyle, you would need to have several years of this stuff laid up, and that means well beyond storing. That means living off the land, farming, hunting, becoming solar, becoming as medically self-sufficient as possible. But as you can see, prepping is very, very prominent here on YouTube, and it goes from those that recommend the 3 days to 3 months supply, to those that recommend a year, to those that, like the Foxes, recommend living as self-sustainable as possible. Whereas many of the Viking adjacent channels, such as Shofar Mountain, Pastor Fox's private channel, personal channel, as well as his wife's channel, are more on the religious aspect. He does have the Viking Preparedness, which is, as I said, much more of a general prepping. Very little in the way of religion ever ekes into this. It's more about becoming self-sufficient, living the prepper lifestyle, becoming as, self-reliant as possible. And all of these people that reside on Shofar Mountain in the Ozarks are considered part of the Shofarian movement, which is this hybrid between prepping, which I think is a good practice for anyone. I recommend everyone have 3 months of food and medical supplies and everything at your home, a generator. That's just good planning. I recommend that. But he goes that this movement, combined with long-term living self-sufficiently and obeying both a hybrid of Old and New Testament law, is the way these people choose to act. We looked at the 613 mitzvah. A lot of those we're talking about God's people living separately. So I think this is the kind of the backbone of what they do, and having all of God's chosen people end up in the Ozarks. And Tracy, what is your final verdict on the Shofarian movement? Hey, Pastor Joe. Is it a cult? Maybe. I'm sure they do a lot of controlling of your own personal life there, of your personal attributes. I'm sure if you make the decision to move willfully to their community, I'm almost certainly there's a whole lot of control exhibited there. So possibly in that broad definition. Do I think they're a dangerous cult? Probably not. I think they're very much a separatist movement, and they just want to live their lives and be left alone and be as self-sufficient as possible. As you can see here, they have they are building their solar grid. They probably have complete ownership of this land in an unincorporated area of the Ozarks and don't want to mix with anyone else. So I don't think they're a threat unless you go on their property, and I'm sure they're going to fill your butt full of lead. But don't do that if you're there for mischief. Now, I can see on his forums and on the YouTube channel, there's a lot more people that follow his prepping teaching. So I'm sure there's more of these Shofarians spread amongst us that you would never know, that more relate to the prepping and perhaps even the religious aspect, but they're not going to ever be mainstream. So it's a very splintered cult, if it's a cult. This is not one I'm necessarily worried about. I think it's interesting. They're a kind of combination of Old and New Testament law. But they're not the only people that practice that way. The Messianic Jews also do kind of a hybrid of that. So I think that whole movement is just very interesting. But for the most part, not scared of these people. I find them interesting. I think their prepping and self-sufficiency teachings are worth a look for everyone. And I highly recommend, if you haven't, to, buy a few extra cans when you go to the grocery store and can afford it, and have a couple of months, 3 months of bonus food stored up for your family if you can. It's just good. It's just being a good citizen, as Pastor Joe said in his book, just being a good citizen. And with that being said, I'm going to end my study of the Shofarians, and we'll be back soon with another Keto and Crime Quickie.